Hey everyone, this is David Brown with the migration update for May 19th, 2024 from the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. Kim and I started out the day at the Charlotte Pier for a nice sunrise, and we didn't stay very long because there were people already being obnoxious in the parking lot and blasting music, and it wasn't even 6 a.m. yet. We had 14 species, with the highlight being a semi-palmated plover perched on the Somerville Pier. Next, we did a quick run through the West Spit just to see if anything was around. We had 21 species, including a singing mourning warbler. Next, we headed over to the Owl Woods, which was our main objective of the morning since there had been so many songbirds around yesterday, and it was decent but not as good as it had been yesterday. We had 47 species, including an alder flycatcher and another mourning warbler. The highlight for me was getting to see a fisher, which is a mammal that I'm pretty sure I've never seen before. We got over to the Hawk Watch platform around 9, and it was foggy and cloudy, although it started to clear up relatively quickly, but then more fog rolled in off of the lake. The wind started out really calm and then became a north or a northeast lake breeze. Here we have a barn swallow perched on the platform, maybe one of the local nesting pair. Here we have a songbird with a black face mask, sort of peach and yellow underneath with a yellow tip to the tail. This is a cedar waxwing. We had 39 species at Braddock Bay Park, including a great horned owl that was getting mobbed by crows. We could see the crows going after something in a tree, and eventually it flew, and we could see that it was a large owl. Around 11:30, I moved into Frisbee Hill because of those northerly winds, and this was away from all of the fog of the lakeshore, and it was a beautiful sunny day there, and I did most of the watching from the parking lot, and there wasn't really that much activity, so it was nice to just sit under the shade of a tree. Here we have a juvenile broad-winged hawk. Remember that broad-winged hawks are in the Buteo genus, along with things like red-tailed hawks and red-shouldered hawks, but the broadwings have more pointed wingtips because they only have 4 feathers that make up the wingtip, 1, 2, 3, 4, compared to the other species which have 5. Overall, the juvenile broadwings like this are pretty pale underneath. You can see all that light shining through. Have a relatively plain tail with some narrow banding, just a little bit of brown streaking to the underside, no dark trailing edge to the wings, and we can see that most of the juveniles are molting the inner primary feathers this time of year. Here we have a juvenile bald eagle. We can see it's a large dark raptor with a very large head and bill. Taking a look at the plumage of this one, we see that the head and the underside of the body are a very dark brown coloration. We see a completely even trailing edge to the wings, indicating that this is a juvenile, what we would call a southern juvenile, so one born south of us over the winter. We can see this bird is just in really fresh plumage, not really any signs of wear, no signs of molt. One of the local ospreys that nest on the cell phone tower wasn't too happy about the bald eagle invading its airspace and came to chase it away. You can see that the bald eagle flipped completely upside down to fend off the attack. Here's another pass that the osprey made, and here we see the top side of the bald eagle, and you can just see how dark that bird is on top. And one final look at the osprey and the juvenile bald eagle. I had 30 species at Frisbee Hill, including a blue-winged warbler. I left the Hawk Watch a little bit early, and Kim and I walked at the Owl Woods and then here at the Firehouse Woods. And I didn't keep complete checklists. Sometimes it's good to take a break from that, just because when you're doing the checklist, you have to focus so hard on every single bird that you're hearing, and it's just a lot of mental strain. So sometimes it's nice just to take it a little bit more casual, and you can always put in a checklist if you find something good. Altogether, I had 88 species today. Taking a look at the hawk count report for our migrating raptor totals, today we had 57 turkey vultures, 3 bald eagles, 1 northern harrier, and 64 broad-winged hawks, for a total of 125 migrating raptors. That brings the May total to 12,156 and the season total to 64,759. Taking a look at the forecast for tomorrow, it's looking like a mix of sun and clouds with a high around 70 and light northerly winds, so overall pretty similar to today. I would expect most of the flight to happen from Frisbee Hill, and let me also remind you that there is helicopter training at Braddock Bay Park tomorrow, so we will be unable to use the platform for most of the day, so just be aware of that. And as far as I know, it's still happening. It's training where they practice picking up water out of the bay and dumping it on the fields to practice putting out a fire, for example. For Tuesday, it's looking partly cloudy with a high in the low 80s, probably the warmest day so far this year. Winds west-southwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour, so those are really good winds. My only concern would be if the winds end up on the lighter side, that perhaps a lake breeze could kick in, especially with the temperatures being so warm. But if we hold on to those more favorable winds, it could be a pretty big flight, so we'll keep an eye on that. And for Wednesday, we're looking at partly cloudy early with scattered thunderstorms in the afternoon and winds southwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. So very similar to what I said for Tuesday. It's a good wind, best wind direction. So as long as it's strong enough to hold off the lake breeze, we should end up doing pretty well. And regardless, we'll probably hold on to that wind for at least a little while in the morning. And during that time, we should have pretty good migration. And this time of year, these kind of days where you get thunderstorms, sometimes they end up being the biggest flights. So we'll hope for some good flights this week. And I think Thursday is looking good as well. All right, another decent day of birding. We didn't end up getting anything new, and it felt like we did a lot of running around in the morning and not really getting anything too interesting. There were a couple of nice highlights to the day, such as seeing that great horned owl. And maybe we should be more appreciative, or maybe I should be more appreciative of some of these species that we're seeing right now. You know, we're almost at the point where it's just like, oh, it's another bay-breasted warbler. It's another Wilson's warbler. But in reality, these are species that we only see for a very narrow window. And so maybe we should appreciate them while we have them, because in a few weeks, they'll all be gone. The Hawk Watch will continue through the end of the month. And this time of year, we're getting a lot of these days with light winds where the lake breeze kicks in. But it's looking like at least a couple days this week, we have a shot at some more favorable southwest winds. So we'll hope for some big flights on those days to end out the season on a good note. But we do go through the 31st. So I hope to see you out soon, either in the field or up on the Hawk Watch platform. From Lyco Birds, this is David Brown. Thanks for watching.